Microphone check. It's been a while since I did a podcast. Okay, welcome to the One Life, One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. Today, we have a very, very special guest, my friend for a very long time, and we got to tour together. I don't know if it was a year ago now. Maybe long, I think it was a year longer, right? 2019, though, maybe.
I think it was 2019, yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Andrew Black. And that's your real last name?
That is my God-given birth name, Andrew William Black.
Such a cool name.
Well, thank you, man. Thanks for having me on, man. It's good to see you.
You too. I haven't seen you in a minute since the pandemic. Before that, I'm trying to think when you lived close to here before. I forgot you lived in Long Beach now.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming up. Appreciate it.
Of course. I used to live right around here. I was at like Venice and La Cienega, like when I first moved out here in 2011. And then,
oh, you were?
Yeah. So it's kind of nice coming to my old neighborhood.
Back to your hood. You like the Dave Grohl of hardcore.
I am.
Yeah. and your looks, and because you come from that area too. You're from D.C. though, right?
Yeah.
Born and raised?
I was born around like Albemarle and Tenleytown. Like, and then like I spent like my formative like teenage years like out in Maryland. Like,
yeah.
I can talk a little bit more about that or.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. People love to hear the story. So that's where you kind of grew up? Basically,
yeah. Like it was kind of nuts. It was like when I was a little kid, I remember because there was a Hechinger, like basically right like around like AU in Tenleytown, Wilson High School, Fort Reno.
Yeah.
Like right where Albemarle crossed over Wisconsin Ave. That was the closest metro stop to it. And then just like a little bit northwest of there, we lived in the 4200 block of Albemarle. And
listeners know where that is? It's like a known kind of place.
I don't think so.
Okay,
I mean, like it's just like it's just like this little pocket of Northwest DC.
Yeah. Excuse me.
I mean, like some people might recognize like Wilson High School in Fort Reno because that was the place where Ian and I think Jeff Nelson, Ian Mackay went to high school at Wilson.
Gotcha.
And Fort Reno Park, right across Chesapeake
Street. Had those shows, right?
Yeah, they had the summertime shows where during the '90s, Fugazi would like annually kind of close the summer session out.
Yeah.
And so, but just a little bit northwest of there, on the other side of Wisconsin Avenue, like my pop and my mom bought this house, and like it was just a nice little neighborhood, and like it was. We could walk to the park, and see like all of our friends, and like, like in the 80s in DC, it was Chocolate City still, you know what I mean? So like, it was like, and we could get on the metro, and like, it's crazy that like, I was thinking when you asked me to do this podcast, I was thinking about like the things that have come into the orbit of my life that then come back years or decades later.
Full circle.
And one of my earliest memories, I remember just like taking the metro with my mom to the museums, because all the museums in DC were free. So like pretty much like as a young kid, as like my formative memories were developing, I remember like getting off the metro, and before you reach the street surface, like just like as you got closer to the escalator and going up, you would hear this like
go, right?
What exactly? And you're like, and you're a little kid. You have no idea what this is, but you kind of like hear this pulse, and then the escalator comes to the top, and you walk out the metro subway turnstiles, and you see a dude, a black dude, who may or may not be homeless. You don't know. You're just a young kid. You know what I mean? But you see this guy with like, it looks like he's got as many arms as Vishnu, like playing like, like trash cans and like shopping cart. And like in my young mind, I'm just like, this sound, this pulse, it's like heavenly.
Yeah. Wow.
And I had no idea what go-go music was at age 3, age 4, age 5, as my mom has me taken down to museums.
It was the soundtrack of the city, yeah.
And it's just like this pulse. And if the subways are the arteries, then like there's the pulse right in the arteries of this city. And like I swear to God, like if you lived in and around DC, it's like that pulse, that beat, that energy. Beat would just hit you. And you'd be part of it,
Do you have brothers and sisters?
I had a brother who passed in 1996. He was. I kind of come from like a line of like alcoholics and addicts and stuff. Man. So I'm incredibly grateful to be sitting here today. Yeah, drug free, alcohol free.
Yeah, I'm grateful to have you
with
here.
The vegetarian diet because last year 2019 when we toured, I was like smoking like a chimney.
Oh, that's right, you were.
Yeah,
cigarettes. Yeah, that's right.
Me and the road crew, we were just like blazing it every day. But like
road crew meaning one other person. Yeah.
I just got back to this point in my life where I just feel like that fucking 15, 16-year-old kid again, where I'm just like, I don't need drugs, alcohol, like smoking. Like,
were you partying when your brother passed?
No, I was straight edge then too.
Okay.
Like it was kind of, okay. So like after like we lived in DC up until I was probably like 5 or 6. And then my pop had this like farmhouse fantasy. Like, so he bought this house out in Seneca, Maryland. So we moved out to Seneca. And Seneca, it's like northwest of DC proper, along the Potomac River. And there was a canal system that was built that went from DC all the way to like the Great Lakes or some shit, the Scioto Canal, I think. Okay. And so we lived like right near one of the locks, but there was nothing around. It was like pitch darkness, like no street lights, no park you could walk to, no metro. You were just out there. And then my pop promptly left me and my mom and my sister, and started kind of like another relationship.
Wow.
And so like it was just like as a kid. Oh, and this is the craziest part. This house that he purchased was built before the Civil War.
Wow.
So there was a slave quarters on the property that was never torn down. Okay.
Holy shit.
So you're like, I'm now like 5, 6, and I'm trying to get my head around like, what is a slave quarters? Like I couldn't understand how, like, you don't even know what slavery is yet. You haven't even been socialized, but there's this building on your property where slaves used to live.
Yeah.
And needless to say, the property itself had bad vibes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Wow.
And I'm not one to believe in, like I don't go around like saying like I believe in ghosts or I even know what happens in the afterlife or anything like that. But there was an intercom system that was installed in the house, I'm assuming sometime in the 70s, that my mom would use, to like, hey kids, dinner's ready. Come on, come downstairs. And sometimes that intercom would just like,
wow. Are you serious?
And it would just, and like, I don't know what happened on that property, but it had been around since before the Civil War.
It's haunted, man.
Yeah. And like, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to say it was haunted. I don't want to say I believe in ghosts, but
sounds like,
it's, like
just spirits there, man. Yeah.
Scared the hell out of me. And
that sounds horrifying. Yeah.
Okay. And there was a dirt floor in the basement. So it just felt like it was just like an open grave in the basement. And it was just like, it was terrifying, man. So needless to say, when my mom got the divorce settlement, she moved to Gaithersburg, Maryland.
Okay.
And I could catch the 56 to the Shady Grove Metro. And then I was like down to Freedom Plaza. And then like, 8:00 at night, the doors are like 9:30 Club or Black Cat, which had just opened up. Like, and they let kids who were 13 in,
Damn,
it's like,
man.
okay, cool. Now,
holy shit. So you were going to shows that young?
I was going to shows at like 13, like 12, 13, like when I was like 7th grade. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And who got you into that? How'd that happen?
Well, in 7th grade, moving from Seneca, Maryland to like the kind of more suburb, it was like more of a suburban vibe. Like, wasn't so country anymore, but it wasn't back to city. But I in 7th grade was a big year, man. I got given acid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn.
By these.
Young.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy young. Yeah.
So
had you tried anything before that? Drinking or smoking or anything?
Just, like sips off Pop's beer or something like that. You know what I mean? But like, so I think these older dudes were like testing out me and my friend to see if like we could hang to like sell drugs for them, but it's
Wow.
like we're in 7th grade, you know what I mean? But like, so it's kind of messed up that like these older dudes, one of them who was my friend's brother, was like giving these young kids acid, you know what I mean?
Holy shit.
But so, and I definitely think that affected my kind of development and the way I saw the world. You know, it kind of like blew it wide open.
Yeah.
So my mom found, and then they were giving me weed to sell, but I quickly found out that like the best clients who gave the best tips were my mother's friends.
No way, man.
So I
was
was
selling weed to your mom's friends?
Yeah. And my mom eventually, I mean, like
At 13?
I mean, how, what
Yeah.
you mean, like 12?
Maybe
like,
younger, yeah.
like 7th grade. Like,
Holy
so
shit.
my mom found like the tip money and cash that I've been getting from her friends. And I told her, I lied to her and I told her I was like mowing lawns, and she was pissed as hell. And like, I really just like violated her trust. Like she was so
Wow.
bummed, and she felt like that she had like, you know, like done something wrong as a parent. But like that same year I met this kid in junior high in 7th grade, and he was wearing a Zildjian t-shirt.
Sick.
And he was just like this kind of like buzz cut, like Asian kid, and he looked kind of nuts. And I was like, hey, I play drums. My mom bought me a drum set. I like, do you play drums? He's like, no, I play bass. He's like, but my cousin's a drummer. And my cousin's got this band. And that band was this band called Corm, C-O-R-M.
Okay.
Not to be confused with Corn.
Corm.
But Corm's guitar player was this. So their drummer was this guy named Dan Chu, and that was my friend Ian Chu's cousin. And so instantly, you know, like me and Ian started doing a band.
Okay.
And we kept doing that band through high school. And, you know, Dan's guitarist, this guy named John Davis, he started giving me like, he met my sister and he liked my sister. So he started dating my sister.
Wow.
And
Isn't John Davis the name of somebody from Korn too?
I think so.
Jonathan Davis. Wow. So the guy in Korn, his name's John Davis. Holy shit. That's fucking crazy. This is way before Korn too.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's maybe a year or two, a couple years,
Okay.
but so
That's crazy.
he would give me, you know, so he started dating my sister, and like, you know, Nirvana had already broke by that point. So like I was into like, you know, the rock you could access via the radio and stuff.
Yeah.
And the hip hop you could access via the radio. But it was John Davis and Dan and Ian who first started like being like, oh, well, you know, check out Fugazi, check out Government Issue, check out, you know, Teen Idols, check out all this Discord shit.
Okay.
But also, you know, like, you know, check out like all these indie bands, like, and there were so many bands that had like female, like singers, guitar players, drummers, there was
Madhouse? Remember Madhouse?
Yes, I do remember Madhouse, but I never got into Madhouse.
Okay.
Like, it was crazy because it was like the bands that I was first introduced to, that like I was like, whoa, there's so many like women in this scene, like Velocity Girl and this band called Tsunami that was on this label called Simple Machines that Discord had like a really like complimentary relationship with.
Okay.
And that was, I think, Jenny Toomey and Kristen Thompson ran Simple Machines.
Okay.
And a girl named Sarah Shannon sang Velocity Girl. And so it was like, I kind of saw, you know, the Discord scene that had kind of evolved after Revolution Summer. Mm-hmm. And so as like, you know, alternative and, you know, everything that was kind of being like, signed by people like Mike Gitter, you know, and like put into like a major, you know, label context. Yeah. You know, there was, you know,
it was Atlantic you worked for, right?
I think he worked for Atlantic.
Okay.
Like, I think so because that's eventually how he signed Jawbox. Okay. Because I think he was responsible for that. And Jawbox was like one of the few bands from DC that was like, cool, let's go to a major.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I remember that.
But like, so around that time, you know, there were all these other like indie rock bands, like, and, you know, and post-punk bands that were playing. So I kind of got introduced to like, oh, here's what Discord is doing now. And I saw Minor Threat, and I saw Government Issue, and I saw Teen Idols and Marginal Man, and like I'm like, oh, like that's what happened before.
Yeah.
But hardcore, like when I first got introduced to like this world of independent music, I didn't realize that there was still a hardcore scene going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was so like through John, and I got the access to like what Discord was doing now.
Yeah.
In 1993, 94, 95.
Yeah.
And then while I'm in high school, I meet this dude named Faraz, and he's friends with this guy named Dave Nada, who went on to play in bands like Medic and Day Nada.
Okay.
And now he's a pretty recognized DJ. He
Awesome.
created this genre called Moombahton. That's like
Moombahton?
Yeah, he's got a label called Hermanito.
Okay.
Hermanito Records, and John Davis. If anyone wants to check him out now on Instagram, I think his handle is UMD Punk Collections.
Okay.
And he's got an amazing archive of like old DC flyers and stuff.
Wow.
It's insane, the stuff, and everything he's getting together, he's archiving for the University of Maryland too.
Oh wow.
Because he works for University of Maryland.
That's awesome.
So, and John was kind of like, he definitely took a page from me in Makai's book, where he was like an archivist, a zine guy, like a collector and
hardcore historian, / hoarder.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
And so I think like John's work ethic kind of mirrored Ian's, and so Ian Mackay saw a lot in him, and So getting back to Faraz was like, hey, there are these shows that are happening at this place called Chamber of Sound.
Chamber of Sound,
I didn't know it was the old Safari Club.
Oh wow, that's right. Yeah.
But it was called Chamber of Sound. So like I started going with Faraz, and and that's where I first got your 45.
Oh wow,
the one with the blocks on it.
Yeah.
I think I saw you guys with I think it was Mouthpiece.
Maybe that makes sense. Yeah,
Mouthpiece, H2O. I can't remember.
The Chamber of Sound.
Yep.
Wow.
And so, I guess some of the things that like were entering my orbit at that time, naturally, Discord, Ian, but also you, and like
it's crazy.
And I think you guys played. Do you used to do a cover of With or Without You?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. But like that was the only time I ever heard you play it.
Okay.
Like one of those first shows at Chamber of Sound, and it was like kind of and I already mentioned the Go-Go, but it was kind of like these things that I looked up to, like that I had no idea were going to come back into my life.
That's crazy.
And with such meaning and significance later on, like I was just kind of in awe.
Yeah.
Of everything that I was like getting to witness and be part of.
You're so young too, man. Getting to those shows.
I was just a teenager. Yeah. I mean, like by the time, like I was probably like 14, 15, like by the time that I saw you. So,
still crazy. Mom trusts you to go to these shows and stuff too.
Well, Mom was working all the time. She was just like a single mom. So
yeah, same here. So yeah. But she trusts you to go out there and do that.
Yeah, she did.
Even after the acid.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I think, once she saw like, oh, he's going to these shows and he's identifying with this like scene that's straight edge.
Yeah.
Then like this trust started to rebuild. So going back to your, initial question, when my brother passed, I was straight edge.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't understand how my brother could go off on like a tangent and relapse and like and die from this shit, like why?
Yeah.
Because I just, especially after like like smoking weed and doing acid so young, I was like, I don't need that shit. You know what I mean? Like I'm cool. Like I'm here. I've got this awesome community of people, and like I kind of saw the way that like Discord's still functional. Maybe not like the way that they kind of like helped create hardcore isn't going the same way, but there's over here Chamber Sound like, and they would have matinees at Black Cat on Sundays too, like I was like, hardcore's still going.
Totally.
Like, this is pretty fucking rad.
Yeah.
And like, you couldn't go off at a Fugazi show.
No.
But you could go off at a Battery Damnation show,
totally,
you know? And
For
so,
sure.
like,
Get the best of both worlds.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so,
yeah.
like, kind of like, I felt like I was really lucky because, like, you know, I could see both those worlds and see the way they were kind of like functioning kind of like independently, but there was so much crossover, you
Yeah.
know, like
Totally.
you would see Sean Brown at the same shows and you'd be like, well, it's that dude from Dag Nasty. And he's obviously in both worlds. He's got a foot over here. He's got a foot over there, you know, like,
Yeah.
and it kind of like, it started stitching the history and the fabric of that independent music community together. And it's like, it's not like lines of like punks over here, hardcore's over here,
Yeah.
indies over here, you know,
Yeah.
like, and furthermore, like those genres, which were largely white. The first time I saw go-go proper was when Fugazi opened up for Junkyard Band
Sick.
at this community center in PG County, probably like 95. I like rode in the back of this like Jeep that some of the Quorum dudes were going over to see him. And I was like, man, this is crazy. Fugazi's opening for somebody, you know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
on the
yeah.
way to the show. Like I didn't understand how Fugazi could be opening for somebody. 'Cause-
Junkyard Band too. Wow.
yeah. And like every time I'd seen Fugazi up in that point, like there'd always been hundreds of people.
Yep.
And so I was shocked when I got to that show and there are hundreds and hundreds of people, but there's a police presence. And there's a whole lot more African Americans here than there were, you know, the
Yeah.
shows without them. And like, and I just didn't, you know, like, it's like, damn, like, why does there have to be police here? Because they're all, you know,
Yeah.
these brothers and sisters here. Like, this isn't,
Excuse me.
like, this is weird, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and it kind of like made me think, you know, like, how come, you know, like this one genre of music is being more closely watched.
Good point.
But, you know, then, you know, as you heard more on the news about like people, you know, like getting in arguments at go-go's and shooting each other and stuff, you're like, oh, maybe that's why there's a police presence there, you know, but I wasn't as entrenched in the go-go community as I was as like the hardcore and punk scene. So there was a lot of stuff that I just didn't know about it.
Yeah. How was that show?
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I
I'm sure it was
mean, like,
amazing. Yeah.
dude, I mean, like,
Was the crowd cool for Fugazi? Like probably for a lot of people first time seeing them.
a lot of people laughing at him. A lot of people like, you know,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people just being like, what is this shit? You know, a lot of people who were just there for Junkyard Band waiting for him. You know what I mean? And then Junkyard just cranked for over like an hour. I think Fugazi probably played like 40 minutes, I think.
Wow.
And then
Just that happening is amazing though, and so I don't know, it's so cool to have that happen. Because
Yeah.
I know Minor Threat, one of their last shows was with like a go-go band as well.
yeah, they played with Trouble Funk.
Trouble
I
Funk,
think.
yeah. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, like Ian just had those relationships, and he just like kept them up over the years. You know,
Yeah.
like
I love it.
I think seeing the way that the go-go community kind of like used local dollars, you know, and they were just like, yeah, this money's coming from everyone in the community, you know, and this is going to be our bread and butter, and that's cool.
Yeah.
And guess what? We can take some of that bread and butter money and we can feed ourselves, but we can also help our community.
Yeah, I love that too.
And so I think seeing the independence of the go-go world, along with seeing bands like The Obsessed, you know, really had an impact on Ian. And I mean, that just trickled down because I mean, like, it made everyone like my age who like witnessed this independent music and like John Davis just being like, I'm gonna do it myself. There's no other way about it. I'm gonna do it myself, and I'm gonna find my allies who are also interested in functioning in an independent manner.
I love that.
Yeah.
What was so before you get out of school, did you graduate school?
I did.
Did you like school? You did good there?
I did well, you know. I studied, I focused, you know, like I made every, like every exam, like I was like a BA student, you know.
Nice.
Like, yeah.
That's good. That's good.
The thing I loved the most about it was that like I joined drumline. Like when I was a freshman in high school, I was kind of like, I didn't want to do anything, you know, like school related, but I was also like going down to Freedom Plaza a lot. And like, I never spent much time on vert ramps, but like I loved going down to Freedom Plaza.
That's awesome.
And Pepe Martinez was like, he was pretty big. He was getting sponsorships like around then. And so I was like, okay, skating's cool, you know, but I was also playing drums, and I had this, you know, this band with my friend Ian Chu going in high school. And and I was like, man, what else can I do to like really get this, you know, to keep pushing forward drum wise? And my friend was like, why don't you try to, you know, join this the marching band? And I was like, well, I don't know. And so like, but
were you a shy kid, outgoing kid?
I was I kept to myself.
Yeah.
You know, like I wasn't that outgoing. I didn't like say a lot, you know what I mean? But like I would talk a lot around like the people that I knew that I was like cool with.
Okay, yeah.
You know, like but for the most part I don't think I really speak a lot.
Yeah. You're pretty chill. But like a marching band, that's yeah, it's not. But marching band, that's like being right front and center in front of the whole school.
Yeah.
It's like a big deal.
And like it was like I think it was like a good place for me to be, because like it let me, I mean, first of all, the band instructor was just like, you take this entire group of people and you're in charge of them. And I was like, okay.
So that's you?
Well, I mean, like when I first joined in sophomore year, I just like, I kind of learned the ropes as like part of like 5 snare line.
Yeah.
And like then that high school I went to in Montgomery County was called Quince Orchard. It was kind of big. There were like 2,000 kids, so 500 per grade. So like our marching band, just the drum section broke down to 5 snares, 5 tonal bass drums, 2 cymbal players, 2 quad players. So
Damn.
like I got brought onto this kind of like roughly like, you know, group of drummers who was like 20 people big, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, cool. And and because we were, you know, around the DC area, we were getting cadences from like schools in PG County that were like just straight up like go-go beats.
Okay.
That like you could incorporate into the drum line. And so we're like, there was like, you know, one of the like the things we would do at like football games was like play the go-go beat, you know?
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like and so after my sophomore year, all the seniors who were leading the drum line, they all graduated. So in my junior and senior year, that's when I became like in charge of like the drum line. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I think like at kind of a young age, like I was like, okay, it kind of forced me into a position of leadership. Mm-hmm. And since I wasn't really the kind of guy who like had like a lot to say or like kind of like a big mouth or a big attitude or a big ego or a big personality.
Well, a lot of responsibilities either probably at that time.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
I just kind of like, it forced me to kind of like a younger age to like have to lead by example rather than like just saying and then not doing.
Yeah.
You know, so
follow through.
And I was just learning too, you know what I mean? There was so much stuff like, you know, snare vocabulary, snare articulation, reading notes, because like the bass drums were tonal. They had different sizes to them. So like it was really difficult, you know, teaching, you know, like the dude who like marched third bass drum to be like, all you have to do is rest. Rest, 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 did it, rest, 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 did it, rest, rest, rest. You know, like you're part of a larger piece. The whole line is going like, you know, and there's 2 hits for the 5th bass drum. There's 2 hits for the 4th, you know? So like, it was a challenge. Cause like, I was just like learning as I went, but it put me it put me exactly where I needed to be, you know? Yeah.
And so what were your goals when you graduated? What did you want to do?
I mean, I wanted to keep playing drums.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what I wanted to do. You know, like I was very, you know, like many teenagers, just kind of disillusioned.
Totally.
And, you know, like the political, it's like when you grow up in DC or around DC, it's like the local news is the political news.
Yeah.
So you're kind of getting a steady like diet of like President Reagan, President Bush today, you know, and you're just like, Jesus Christ. And then like, and the local news is talking about like what Senate and Congress did during the day. And so like, it's hard not to pick that stuff up.
Yeah.
And like, it was just like, I think disillusioned is a light term, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you saw like the way that people were afforded to live in the district who were in places of authority, but then you actually saw the people who lived in the district who lived in absolute poverty.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that like at a very young age too, it was totally clear that like poverty isn't just something that happens. It's a 100% political and economic thing that gets legislated. And there are people who are 24 hours a day writing legislation to benefit them and keep others oppressed.
It's fucked. So you start getting into that stuff like deeply?
I mean,
like besides the news, you start getting into politics?
There was no way for me to avoid it not affecting me. You know what I mean? Because like, and because of that, I think it really just like made me, when I left high school, being like, what the fuck do I want to do? It's like anything that I would do, it's part, it's going to be part of like a larger machinery that's either going to like, you know, like take someone else's like labor or resources away from them and sell it at a higher price. Or it's going to be like, or do I just go to college and get a degree and just try to like push through that way? Like I said, I knew I wanted to like keep playing drums, but I had no fucking idea what I wanted to do because I thought everything was just fucked.
Yeah.
And there was such a huge level of hate, you know, like in me for...
Were you an angry kid when you graduated? So you're angry?
Yeah. I mean,
fuck
like...
the world, yeah.
Totally. Like, I hated everything, you know what I mean?
So hardcore and punk was a good place for you then?
It was. I mean, and I mean...
Probably saved your life in a sense, too.
I mean, it saved my life because it plugged me into, like... something bigger than myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, before I found independent music, it just like, I had this, you know, I always felt like when I was growing up, whether it was a TV or a answering machine or a VCR, everything fucking broke. Everything that my mother spent her hard-earned money into buying, everything broke or fell apart.
Yeah.
And this was, you know, the age before things needed software updates every 6 months. You know what I mean? It was just like when you bought something, you hoped it would just last for a while.
Yeah.
And when it didn't, I think that also really contributed to my disillusionment towards like the world and, you know, manufacturing and production and overall capitalism. Because you're just like, okay, everything that I spend my heart that my mom spends her hard-earned money on falls the fuck apart. I fucking hate it. Like, why can't something just work? Is this what we're doing? We're just tricking each other into buying this shit that's just going to fall apart. And it just drove me nuts. Like, and I just like, I didn't want to play. You know what I mean? I didn't want to play, but I had to. And,
were you working out of school?
I started working when I was, luckily my mom just wanted me to focus on like high school, when I was in high school. Yeah. So, I went to University of Maryland, after I graduated and I started working, I guess it was 1999 at that point when I was 19. Yeah. In my second year of college, the Black Hat needed people to work, you know? Yeah. And like, I mean, like before then I like had like jobs at like the coffee shop, you know what I mean? And like the bagel place and, you know, like I worked, you know, just like places in like suburban strip malls, you know, just to, you know, build work ethic and stuff like that. Yeah. But like, you know, so I did work on and off like while I was in high school and stuff, but, put away a little bit of money, you know, to help me pay for my books when I hit college and shit like that.
Yeah.
But I could, you know, again, like I was in awe of the Black Cat when I first started going there.
Mm-hmm.
So when I started working there, I was like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
Why are they?
It's awesome.
Why are they letting me work here? Like,
what was your major in college? Like, what were you doing there?
I did sociology,
Okay.
and there was this program that had developed called American Studies, and I didn't know what it was, but there's like a picture of Homer Simpson in like the brochure, and I'm like, I guess I'll do that. Like,
What?
yeah, and it was basically this 2-year focus group within the 4-year major of sociology that kind of like took like a cultural anthropology approach and an American history approach,
Okay.
and like fused them together to give me a degree that I never used. But and it's funny because like I did 3. So like by the time I was going to college, you know, like, and I started working at Black Hat, I was still playing in bands, but there was a dude from, I guess he was from Boston or Connecticut or something. This dude named Steve Kim who had moved to DC to go to Georgetown.
Okay.
And Steve Kim saw me playing in kind of like these lesser, you know, like every band I feel like is like kind of like on the outskirts of obscurity.
Yeah.
Which is, but I mean, if I can say one thing, it's like the things that I've done in music that have meant the most to me haven't put a dime in my pocket.
Yeah.
And I think it's just such evidence that like, if you love something, just like do it. Cause the day you plant the seed isn't necessarily the same day you're going to eat the fruit, you know, like
I love that.
I really, 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 really encourage everyone just to like do what you love. Cause you never know what way it's going to unfold,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
And
You do it because you love it.
you
First
do
and
it because you
foremost.
love it.
Yeah, man.
And you do it again and you do it again. And that's what practice is. And that's what life is, you know,
Mhm.
like you have to keep swinging the bat.
Yeah.
And like, you know, so there was this, so Steve Kim was like, this guy's a good drummer.
Yeah.
Ken
You
Olden,
recognize.
you should check this dude out.
Okay.
And that blew my mind because Ken Olden was in
He was Ken Olden,
Damnation,
yeah.
and Battery,
Yeah.
and
What up, Ken Olden?
what up, Ken? And you know that, you know, like that, the knowledge of my playing, you know, like
Yeah.
transferred over to Brian McTurnan's like
Okay.
sphere, and you know, again, when I first started going to shows at Chamber of Sound, I started becoming aware that like there was this whole other like world of hardcore and indie, you know, like my like love of like Ashes and Battery, you know, like, oh my God, Brian McTurnan wants to do a band. He wants me to play drums for him.
Yeah.
And so like I was doing this band with like Brian. Like Brian had just moved back from Boston at the end of the 90s.
Yeah.
And he had this studio at 14th and Longfellow. And so Brian was like, he was trying to like decide whether he wanted to like do another band because Miltown had just broken up too.
Yeah.
He's like, should I do another band or should I do the studio thing down in DC like really hard? So like he had these songs and the band was called I think it was called My Best Mistake.
Okay.
And it was me and Mike Schleibaum
Yeah.
and John Henry of Darkest Hour and my other band, the Primals, and Brian had all these songs written and like we played a couple shows and then, you know, like a couple years, he was still in that studio, but Explosion, this band from Boston,
Yes.
was doing an EP with him.
Okay.
And Brian asked me to come down and track the drums for the EP that they were doing.
Wow. Okay.
And so
Were they a band that already played shows, or this kind of just doing?
Explosion had already put out the first 2 Jade Tree records.
Okay.
Like they at this point
Are established. Okay.
I think, yeah, you know, like people knew who the band was, and I was already a fan of theirs.
Okay.
You know, and Brian was like, yeah, you should come down. They're in the studio right now, but you should come track their drums.
Okay.
And I was like, okay.
Wow, man.
So I met the Explosion guys that day, and I learned the EP that they were trying to record, and I recorded those drums in a day for them.
Wow.
And you know, it was, you know, Brian McTurnan's kind of validation, you know, that really made me, I don't know, like
awesome.
it set me on this different course of playing.
Yeah.
But also, it felt like a different trajectory all of a sudden. You know what I mean? Like,
it's awesome if somebody acknowledging like your skills. You know what I mean? Like saying, check out this drummer. He's a great drummer. You know what I mean? Just that one thing could change everything. You know?
Dude, it blew my mind because you know, like after joining Explosion, it was seriously like going from the farm leagues to the majors. Because my first, you know, the Explosion, I think after I tracked that record, it was called Steal This. They did a U.S. tour with the Queers, with their old drummer Dan Colby, and then I think that was like November or something like that. And then I got a call from their guitar player at the time, Sam Cave, and Sam was like, "Hey, we got offered this tour in Europe in January of 2001 with." Oh, and before that, like before Brian like kind of pulled me up from the bullpen to work with him, Ken Olden's friend Issa, had this hardcore band called Good Clean Fun. Yeah. And so like I kind of got to cut my like hardcore teeth and go to Europe with Good Clean Fun.
Awesome.
And that was cool. Like, you know, like touring, you know, in a pre 9/11 world.
Yeah.
And, you know, seeing hardcore in Europe and, you know, like, and I got to, you know, really tour around the United States with Good Clean Fun. And
that was your first time going overseas?
Yeah, that was my first time touring.
Awesome,
and I was like 19, I think.
Sick.
You know,
Yeah.
I was like,
that's a good first tour. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Good Clean Fun kind of like was where I kind of got to like, you know, cut hardcore teeth, you know?
Yeah.
And then Explosion was like,
excuse me.
It was
Another level.
Yeah, the first tour I did with them was with Sick of It All.
Wow.
In January 2001.
Okay.
And the Business were on a couple of dates. And so it really felt like going from like, you know, not like Good Clean Fun was the farm leagues, but like it was like who was that band with the youth brush? Crucial Youth?
Yeah. Crucial
okay,
Youth.
yeah.
brush 3 times a day.
Yeah. It was like,
yeah.
I was like grateful that I was like part of like a band that was kind of like satirical, because there definitely was enough around in the hardcore scene that
not a serious. Yeah. For
that
sure.
could have been poked fun at. And Issa did a good job poking fun at some stuff. I think the coolest thing we did was we did this Prince cover of Let's Go Crazy.
Wow.
And we had a picture disc where Issa put his face on Prince's body on the purple motorcycle.
Wow, man. Yeah. That's fucking awesome. I got to find that.
It's pretty fucking hysterical. Mr. Issa's face on Prince's body. And that was fun. But
so the Explosion, your tour is Sick of It All. Wow, okay.
Yeah, it felt like, wow, like, okay, I'm not part of like a funny satirical hardcore band anymore. I'm part of this band that's like, you know, people care about, and like it's kind of like, whoa, okay,
serious business.
Yeah, serious. Yeah. I mean, shit, we're fucking sharing a tour bus. We're Sick of It All. These dudes from fucking New York, they're gonna probably kill us. You know what I mean? Like, and then like we met we met Craig,
yeah,
you know, Pete and Lou, and like fucking nicest, most down fucking dudes, and so like, and that was amazing because I needed to drop out of school for a little while.
Okay.
To do that. So I put College Park, you know, like for good reason on hold, because like, you know, I didn't know what the hell I was doing with this degree that I was trying to work at, you know what I mean? Other than like, that's what my mother wanted me to do, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
So, 2001 was pretty insane because like we came right back from that Sick of It All tour in Europe, and we jumped right into the tour with you guys, H2O, Snapcase, Face to Face.
That's right, you guys were on that tour. Wow.
Yeah, we opened those shows for the second half, like around the U.S.
Because Dashboard was on some of it too, I think.
Were they opening?
Before that, yeah. That was a crazy tour. Wow.
So, yeah, I just saw a flyer from the Riviera in Chicago.
Okay.
Like from 2001 the other day.
Damn. Yeah, that was a great tour. I remember that tour, Face to Face. Wow.
Yeah. And so, and here, and now that like I'm sharing a stage with you, I'm like, this is kind of fucking nuts to me, because this is the same dude that I was like buying his 7-inch at Chamber of Sound, and I was singing along to like Temperature and you know, and now we're touring.
Yeah.
And so
awesome, man.
Again, this other example of like these things I like used to revere just coming back into my life, and now they're like a mile marker of how time has kind of been marching on and where I'm at now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That was 20 years ago. It's crazy.
Yeah. Doesn't feel like it.
That's great. That was a crazy tour. That was a really fun tour, man.
Yeah.
I forgot how long that was, but that was a great lineup too, man.
What blew my mind was the dude who was tour managing that tour for Face to Face, Pyro, if you remember him.
Mm-hmm.
When Roger Gassman was doing Beyond the Streets in LA, like a couple years ago, I was talking about Pyro to like one of the dudes who was building the Venice Pavilion. And then like magic, the next day, Pyro just like shows up.
Wow, he's an old school graffiti guy too. Yeah.
He shows up with like Risk and like,
wow, man.
Bagel from Venice was like there chilling, taking pictures and stuff. And it was just like bizarre. So I caught up with Pyro and I was like, hey man, I don't know if you remember me, but we did that tour in 2001. He's like, yeah, you're familiar. It's good to see you, you know?
Small world, man.
Yeah. And, so after that tour with you guys, after that leg ended, we jumped on with Rocket from the Crypt and International Noise Conspiracy.
Jesus, man.
And
were you living in Boston at the time? Did you move to Boston for the band?
I moved up there to like practice and rehearse, but I hadn't moved any of my shit there yet, you know. But I eventually did move up there, and it, you know, and after that, you know, Rocket from the Crypt. International Noise Conspiracy tour, then it was summer, and we were, you know, like Warped Tour gave us like a bunch of offers, and I think that was, I mean, all those Warped Tours kind of blend together.
Totally.
But the lineups were good.
Of course.
You know,
great lineups back then. Yeah.
Yeah, the lineups were good. And
so you guys were nonstop, man.
Yeah, we went 6 months straight, like hard, as soon as I joined the band.
Wow.
And it was just like, this is what I want to do. You know, like after spending high school and half of college, like having no clue as to what I want to do.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm like, this makes sense, you know? And so Explosion went hard for a couple of years, and we were, you know, kind of going so hard that it was kind of just like, what are we doing? And like we were about to kind of call it quits, but then like some like major labels started getting interested, and we were just like, okay, like, maybe we should sign.
What label were you guys on before that?
But before we signed, well, we were all going off the momentum of the 2 Jade Tree records and the 1 Revelation record, which was the record that I met those dudes with.
Okay.
But
so Dre treat you a major,
yeah, it was kind of nuts, because like it was making the decision to jump to a major label was one of those things that like you kind of dream about as a kid, you know what I mean? But when it's right in front of you, it's like
super scary, man.
It is, because it's like the blending of like your art and your commerce at once, and you know you only kind of got one shot, so you don't want to fuck it up, and you want to give your most authenticity, your authentic, like, you know, version of yourself, but you also want to kind of like appease like the revenue gods that are kind of like breathing down your neck and be like, give me a hit,
and the fan base, and like back then people were so critical of what label you were on.
Yeah.
It's all they cared about, and message boards had just started, and just like
and you know, like indies were kind of getting bought up as subsidiaries of majors at that time too, you know. But that actually kind of worked in our favor because like we were able to use some of the label money we got from Virgin, who we ended up signing with, and using that to fund our own label. So we had this label called Tarantulas,
right?
That we were able to put out one of the Bronx's first records.
Wow!
We did a picture disc for the Bronx. We put out a record for ourselves called "Sick of Modern Art."
Okay.
That I think like. That was one of my favorite recordings. Sick of Modern
How was
Art.
that? How was the reaction for the major label debut?
It was good.
Yeah. Was there like blowback for going to a major or anything like that, or
no? It just seemed like it was like the way that like bands were going at that time.
So many people at that time.
Like it was just kind of like it wasn't not punk to do it. It definitely didn't carry the same stigma it did of like selling out in the 90s. It just seemed like it was just the natural progression of the music industry at that time, you know? So it actually felt like pretty normal that like we were moving forward as a punk band, you know?
Virgin, that's cool.
Who was signed to a major label, you know? And, you know, like things don't always keep going that way, and labels were falling apart too. You know what I mean? So it wasn't too long before, you know, like we didn't have a deal with Virgin anymore.
Was it just one album you did with them?
Yeah, because then we did another record called "Bury Me Standing" after Black Tape, and we were going. What happened?
It was usually like stuck on a major for like freaking 6 to 8 records. Those deals are crazy back then.
Yeah, I think I want to say Virgin like was merging with another.
That's what happened to us. Our shit merged, so we got let go on the label. It was so perfect.
Originally, like we didn't like. Originally, we weren't going to be letting go, but like we changed management. And the manager like was able to get us out of our contract and like let us have the record back, but we didn't do anything with the record because we didn't have a label.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't until like a bunch of years later that Kate Hiltz was kind enough to press up "Bury Me Standing." So we actually did the second major label record that we had, and we were able to, you know, get it out thanks to Kate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shit, it's crazy, man.
Yeah.
And how much long was the band after the major label did they break up? You guys break up?
I think like around like 2006, 2007 or something like that. But like around that time, like I was like, well, let me go back to DC because like the band had moved. Explosion moved from Boston down to New York, and
that's right. That's right.
So we were all
those guys still live there too. Some of them, right?
Yeah, a lot of them live there. Matt still lives there. Damien still lives there.
It's awesome.
And so I moved from New York back to DC in like 2007, and
the band's totally over.
I mean, we weren't playing shows.
Yeah,
I did Sam Caven left the band before then too, and I think I went to Toronto and I did an EP with Sam under the title "Mass Panic Kid," and another little like obscure EP that's just floating around out there, But Sam was a great songwriter, and that's cool. Like we wanted to kind of document our friendship and time together, so we did that.
That's awesome.
But around like I think 2007, 2008, I'm back in DC, and my friend John Davis, who got me into all this music, he's like, "Hey, like do you want to do this band I'm working on?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so he was working with this girl named Laura Burren, and she has a band out here now called the Mina Birds.
Okay.
And so they were doing this like male, female fronted, just like very, very indie project. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I'm into this. Cool. Let's do it. And so I learned their songs and I was playing for them. And we had a record that came out on Saddle Creek Records.
Okay.
And we did that for a little while, and then things kind of shifted shape. And, you know, that band, John wanted to go in more of like a power pop direction.
Yeah.
And it kind of streamlined into this band with it was called Title Tracks.
Okay.
And it was me
before Title Fight.
Yeah. Okay. It was me and John Davis singing and playing guitar. And John, I was doing Explosion stuff. John started this band in DC called Q and Not You.
Okay.
And Q and Not You got they were running with like, this other band called Black Eyes, that was like creating this like turn of the century, like community, in DC, that Ian MacKaye was like, I'm into this.
Wow.
Like, I love what you guys are doing. He really appreciated just the energy that their scene was kind of resurrecting, that he hadn't seen since
back then,
the days of, Hoover, Kerosene, 454, Slant Six, Cupid Car Club, In the Wake of Nation of Ulysses, so kind of like the same way that he recognized the obvious energy that, was around Fugazi and everything in the 90s. At the end of the 90s, it was kind of like, everything was kind of flat.
It was.
And then at the beginning of the 2000s, Q and Not You and Black Eyes were playing like bills with each other, and they were just feeding off that same energy. We're just like, okay, let's see who can do better tonight. You know what I mean? Let's see who can have a better show. And Discord really saw that and recognized it. And so John was playing drums for that band, Q and Not You, at the time. So they had broken up, which kind of led him to doing the band Georgie James that was on Saddle Creek, and which evolved into Title Tracks and Michael Cotterman from The Loved Ones, and Kid Dynamite. He was back in DC, and he was playing bass. This girl Meredith Munoz was playing keyboards, and through John's past relationship with Discord and QNIU, the Title Tracks first 7-inch, Ian MacKaye says, "Yeah, let's put it out."
Wow, man.
So
total full circle for you. That's
yet again.
Discord release. That's fucking amazing, man.
So yet again, I'm just this kid who grew up in DC and Maryland, who started feeling his place in the world and being part of this larger fabric of music and independent life and independent music. And the very scene and label that gave me meaning and autonomy and purpose is suddenly saying like,
it's crazy,
let's put out a record for you, and like
when I been tripping,
dude, when I got the 45 back and I saw my name on that Discord release, I was tripping.
It's crazy, bro. Yeah, that's amazing, man.
And
did Ian come see you guys play?
Yeah.
Wow.
He would see us play sometimes.
You're probably tripping out, yeah.
Dude, the most trip out time I ever had was this band that I was doing with Amanda MacKaye. Like,
that's the homie. What up, Amanda?
What up, Amanda?
She's the best.
We were doing this band called Sham Wow.
Okay.
And it was like kind of like a joke band, but like we needed to do it because it was part of this thing called Run for Cover. And Run for Cover was a cover show where all these DC musicians would kind of like break off into different bands and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And then they would do like themes, like and it was a benefit to raise money for Fort Reno Park, because as soon as Fugazi broke up and there wasn't like the annual like 1,000 people event that like people would come and donate and stuff like that, it was a lot harder to keep Fort Reno to pay Gus, the sound man, the guy from 930 who came out with the truck and did the sound, like there were expenses to Fort Reno. And so this benefit show, Run for Cover, became a great way to raise money for next season's shows at Fort Reno. So we did this band called Sham Wow, and it was a Sham 69 cover band. Where we dressed up the guy from Sham Wow, like with the khaki pants and the blue shirt.
Holy shit.
We just did a Sham 69 cover band. Like,
that's amazing.
To give you an idea of like some of the other bands that would play, like there was this band called Just Oats that played, I think,
All Oats?
Yeah, but it was just Oats. It was like they came out and like one after another on stage, and it was just Oats, and another guy dressed just as Oats.
Oh my God, it's fucking amazing.
But so Sham Wow, we're up there playing If the Kids United, and Ian is off on stage, right, just kind of watching us, and Alec MacKaye, for whatever reason, like gets kind of wound up, and so he gets up on stage and he's singing with Amanda, and I remember just looking out over my kick drum and just being like, that's really Amanda, that's really Alec, and that's Ian over there watching us.
Wow, that's amazing.
And like it was just another one of those kind of like out of body experiences, like where you're just like, I'm here and I am so grateful for my life.
Yeah. So what year was that when that record came out?
I mean, ShamWow never released.
No, not that one. The Discord 7-inch. So I need some footage of ShamWow. I'd love to see that, man.
I don't know if any ShamWow footage exists.
Okay, that's kind of cool. It doesn't, but it's crazy. When did the Discord 7-inch come out?
I think it might have come out in 2008.
Okay.
But
awesome, man.
So yeah.
You guys play a lot of shows in that band?
We played some, like, I really loved doing that band because, you know, I mean, like it was playing music with the guy that got me into it.
Yeah, it's cool.
You know what I mean? Like it felt so much like home. It felt so comfortable.
Yeah.
And
that's cool. You maintain a relationship throughout your whole life with him, through all your music projects and everything.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's seen you grow too, you know?
Yeah. I love that guy so much, and I owe so much of, like, you know, even me meeting you and me meeting Brian and, you know, like, and me, you know, working at Black Cat. And like, here's, man, there's so many different ways to go. You know, like when I started working at Black Cat, one of my first shifts, Mark Haggerty was managing. And I knew that Mark was in Gray Matter, you know.
Great band. Super underrated, by the way. Listeners, check out Gray Matter. Incredible albums, incredible band, incredible live show, everything, man. They're so underrated, man. I listen to them all the time. They come up on my list, on my my play on my phone. I'm like, dude.
And the craziest part was that Dante, who owned Black Hat, was the drummer for Gray Matter, you know, and Bernie, the guy who came on managing and, like, you know, helping me out more at Black Hat after Mark left for San Francisco. Bernie was like in 9353 and Nuclear Crayons.
9353, yeah.
He played with Rollins Band. He like did 2 records with Rollins Band. Dante's father, Bobby, Bobby was always around. He was always in the kitchen whenever I would show up to work. And Bobby was, you know, baking the vegan chocolate peanut butter frosting cake and making the seitan and clearing the beer tap lines and stuff, because Bobby was the guy who owned and operated Food for Thought.
Nice.
And, you know, like, you know, Fugazi and Junkyard Band, they were one of my first shows. Like Hoover, Slant 6, Fugazi was another one of my first shows at Ritchie Coliseum, probably 1993. But I got to see this band called Severin that Mark Haggerty was in post Gray Matter at Food for Thought. That was like another one of my first shows that I went to. And so Mark Haggerty and I recently started talking, just, you know, sending messages back and forth over Instagram of all places, you know what I mean? But he posted up a picture of Bobby because Bobby, Dante's father, recently passed. Okay. And, you know, and my father, you know, even more recently passed. And so, like, I reached out to Dante and just sent him my condolences. And I was talking to Mark Haggerty, and Bobby was the dude who, like, taught all of those Discord guys how to eat vegetarian.
Wow.
Because
I didn't know that.
Because he was cooking for him. You know what I mean? He was running Food for Thought. Bobby was the guy that taught Alec Mackay how to fix motorcycles. Mm-hmm. You know?
Like father figure to everybody, yeah.
Yeah. And he just had this, like, he had this quiet, peaceful, like, nature about him that was just so lovely. Yeah. And when he was done with this stuff, he would just get on his motorcycle, like right about his doors were opening, and he'd just take off. You know, he'd done his work for the day. And it was around this time that I was, like, talking to Dante and I was talking to Mark Haggerty, and it's like, you know, like, these are people that, like, I would just go and work with when I was, like, 19, 20 and stuff. But then, like, thinking about, like, wait, hold on. You were in Ignition and Gray Matter and Iron Cross and fucking 3. And, like, and these relationships that, you know,
it's amazing
that I had been, you know, kind of not taking for granted, but seeing in, like, an everyday work context. Yeah. Like, it kind of, like, very recently blew my mind, you know? Yeah. Because I was like, I can't believe that I was in such proximity with all of these people that were such an integral part,
pioneers and stuff. Yeah,
of making DC.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah, it's dudes you're working with, but they have a history of music. Yeah, like super humble, just
completely
working class. Yeah,
the most humble, the most like, I'm doing this and I'm.
Yeah, it's
crazy. Almost like they weren't like, they were just doing it and not expecting it to be as amazing as they are. But the more people you talk to about 3 and Swan Street, the more people are just like, that's my favorite fucking song. I love that. You know, like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that came out early 80s or something, right? Yeah, had to.
Yeah, it was around Revolution summertime.
I remember seeing Fugazi's one of the first shows. Me and my brother went up there, and they were handing out lyric sheets in the crowd. And I still have to find mine. Top friend found his. He would walk in the crowd, Ian, and pass out lyric sheets so we'd all have the words to sing along. It was crazy, man. Those first shows are like so surreal, man. Just the whole scene is so special, man. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I'm so lucky I get to live outside of Maryland, go to those shows early on, Wilson Center, all those venues, and just be a part of that. It's just something so special. And the go-go, too, how that goes hand in hand with the whole scene. You know what I mean?
It's
only D.C.,
yeah.
You know? Nowhere else.
And
is there a go-go scene in L.A. or any other places? Do you know?
No, I mean, like, I helped this band called TCB with some backline in 2019. They came out here, and but
they weren't from here.
No, they came from DC to play here, and
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
just a couple months ago, TOB band and show. They came out here and they played in Crenshaw. And,
nice.
They played in Degnan Street, and that was amazing. And I've heard rumors the Backyard Band is going to be coming out for a Juneteenth performance in the same spot.
Wow.
So it'd be amazing to see Backyard Band and Big G.
I remember Backyard Band. Oh, man. Even when like EU doing the butt blew up, it still didn't become a trend in other cities to start go-go bands. It was such a DC, you know.
I mean, there's something really special in the DNA of the percussionists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I've even spoken, there's a dude living out here now named Malachi Johns who used to play guitar for Northeast Groovers.
Okay.
And we were talking, and I was like, man, it's like we're getting a couple go-go bands out here, you know, here and there, you know, for like special performances and stuff like that. But like, what, like, who else is out here? Like, what conga players are out here that I could link up with as a drummer and maybe try to start a go-go band out here?
Sick.
And Malachi was like, man, there's no conga players out here. and it's like you need, first of all, it's like you need the lineage. Like, you need people who understand the pocket beat of the conga, and you not only need people who know it, you need people who like have it in them, who have that crank in that pocket, and like they have that kind of like, as Buggy and Sauce from the Backyard Band are known as, the engine and the transmission. They need to work together to like develop that lock that makes it go.
Yeah.
You know, and so I mean, it'd be amazing if there was a go-go scene that could evolve. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I've thought about it in the same ways of like, you know, the Middle Class sounded different from Bad Brains, and Necro sounded different from, you know, Uniform Choice. But like,
it's a good point.
But how could you get that go-go DNA, and how could you kind of like replant it? So it could like take root in some other city. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like I guess the nuances of punk, just like fast, loud, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. You know, I mean, it's like you can do that, and people can hear it in other places on other sides of the country and be like, cool, yeah, I can do that. Here's my take on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you can't really do that with go-go. It's like you need a very specific understanding of the West African rhythms intersecting like with the polyrhythms of like funk.
Can you play it pretty good?
I mean, I can play it all right, but I mean, I'm just a white guy who just loved go-go. You know what I mean? Like,
but I know you do. I know you like doing break beats too, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, when I went back to college in 2008, I started my own label to fulfill like an internship credit, because I was like, okay, now that I'm done with kind of like Explosion and trying to like be a major label.
Records? Yeah. So
I started like a label just to print up 45s for drum breaks, and I called it Black's Records.
Yeah.
Like, and the first 45 I put out, I sold the last couple of pressings of the first one to this guy in Alphabet City in Manhattan.
Really?
This guy named Jared Box.
Was it the Dean Baltaloma sessions?
It was not the Dean Baltaloma sessions. Okay. It was the first one was the AB's original breaks.
Okay.
And it was this. So I sold him the last I think 5 or 10 copies that I had of that first pressing, and he was. I was just coming back from some European tour when he hit me up, and I'm like, I'll be back in a couple of days. Yeah. I'll send you the records. He's like, okay, cool, because I gotta get him. We got this guy who wants to hear him, and so I'm like, okay. So I sent him to him, and then the following week he sent me this email with like an MP3 attached to it, and like the email was like, thanks to everybody who came out last night, like Zulu Nation was in the house, like even Queen Latifah came out. It was amazing. And I'm like, what? So I open up the MP3. And it's audio of one of my drum breaks that's, the most go-go centric drum break on the 45.
Wow.
And it's live audio inside of Santos Party's house.
Yep,
Santos Party House with Q-Tip going live over it.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
So he's freestyling over it, or?
He's freestyling over it.
Dude.
And he's calling out African Body. He's calling out Zulu Nation. He's like, and in my mind, when I'm hearing this audio for the first time, it's just like
that's fucking crazy, man.
And
that's a beat that you wrote and you did. Your beat, yeah.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And like
it's like what's after that? It's like Q-Tip's rhyming. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
What can happen after this? African Bambaataa there and Queen Latifah.
I mean, like, I wasn't in the room. I don't know who the hell was there, but you can hear the call and response when he's like going back like back and forth between himself and the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
He's saying, Zulu, Gestapo, Zulu, Gestapo, Zulu. Wow. And you hear everyone in the crowd going, Gestapo. And
was it Jimmy Gestapo from Murphy's Law?
I don't know.
Shout out to Jimmy. That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And again, it's like one of these things. It's like, I'm a 13-year-old listening to fucking Tribe.
Dude, of course, the greatest.
Suddenly I'm a 28-year-old man listening to fucking Q-Tip going over my drum break. And I'm like, how did this thing that I once revered come back into my life's orbit? But now I'm somehow tied into him through the gift of music. Yeah,
and it was a 7-inch he got too, right? So he converted it and then put the thing, and then
it was I sent him.
Wow,
like
man.
Because the way this is how it turned out. Like the dude explained it to me. This guy Jared Box, he was DJing in one floor of Santos Party House, and at the time, Rich Medina and Q-Tip were DJing one floor above him.
Yeah.
So this dude Jared, who was the record buyer for the store in Alphabet City, I can't remember the name of the store. He was like, he told Rich Medina and Q-Tip about it. He's like, I got this dude in DC that's cutting this break that kind of sounds like a go-go break.
Wow.
I think you're going to flip out over it. So that's why he's like, was all urgent about like, you got to get me the record. And
wow, man.
Yeah. And again, much like seeing my name and the Discord logo right next to it on the back of that 45.
Yeah.
Hearing Q-Tip going over this drum like 45 that I cut
crazy,
and
man.
pressed independently myself because of a University of Maryland requirement to like create an internship that I didn't want to go fucking intern for anyone else. I'm like, I guess I'll create my own label so I can use that as my internship credit for a record label.
Yeah, it's amazing, man.
And
super DIY.
So like,
yeah.
Again,
that's a sick moment.
It didn't put a fucking dime in my pocket,
yeah,
but it means the world to me.
Yeah, dude. That's fucking crazy, man. Fuck, does anything else happen to any other beats after that? Your beats? Like, how long did you do that for? I know you've done that for a while.
I put out 2 vinyl releases, and then I used the label to kind of, I had this hardcore band in 2009 called Domino Team that I was doing in DC, and like I put our full length up like on Black's Records, just like as a digital release.
Cool.
I was also doing a band with Schleibbaum and Jason Yawn, this guy that was in a band called Trial by Fire. We had this band called Beasts of No Nation around the same time, like 2008-ish, 2009-ish. But then the Idris Elba movie came out, so pushing the band further into obscurity, we changed the band's name to Free Children of Earth.
Free Children of Earth.
Yes.
Okay.
And
And you in Darkest Hour too, right? For a minute?
Yeah. No. I was never in Darkest Hour.
Okay. I thought you were in there.
I just grew up with those dudes and chilled with them and used to go to their shows. But so
you stayed nonstop your whole life, dude. It's crazy.
I mean, I kept playing from band to band to band.
Yeah, doing different things. And
but I think that's what drummers have to do. You know what I mean? You just kind of have to keep
up,
playing
to
figure out, which is going to be the best wave to ride. You know what I mean? And when they come, you gotta take them. And that's why I dropped out of school and did Explosion, because that was a good wave. You know what I mean?
Man. Yeah.
And like some of the waves are like shorter, but they're just as sweet. You know what I mean? Like when I was doing a band out here in 2015, 16, no, I guess maybe it started in 2016, called the Primals.
Yeah, the Primals.
And we started writing, and then, I hit up John Reese from Rocket from the Crypt, being like, hey man, we got an album worth of songs, and he gave me the thumbs up, and he was like, this is good. Like, I want to do this record for you guys.
That's cool.
And like, it was it was John Reese's validation that was like, oh, we should find a label to like really put this out, which is how we ended up talking to Southern Lord Records, Greg Anderson, son. And that kind of that working with John Reese led to him asking me to play a show with Rocket from the Crypt.
Yeah. Wow. Shit.
And I was not expecting it anywhere, but like when we were in the studio, I think John saw that like I wasn't the same drummer that he toured with in 2001 when Explosion was opening the shows for Rocket from the Crypt.
Got you.
He saw me as a different player. He saw the songs that I was playing for and helping write kind of evolved a little bit more.
Yeah.
And Mario Rubalcaba was going to be, I think his other band Earthless was going to be in South America at the time that Rocket got offered this show. So that's why John Reese was like, hey, can you play drums for me? And yet again, man, just some band that I looked up to like hell when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Suddenly, I'm in the driver's seat holding the tempo together. Like, it just...
So you played one show with them?
I played a show with them. We played with Deftones at Petco Park in San Diego, and it was a great time.
Dude.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was unreal.
What?
Yeah.
And then the Battery stuff, obviously, too. Did you ever play stuff for Battery back then? You was a friend.
Nope. I was just
like that tour just happened that we did. It was just, they wanted,
I was just a fan in the front row.
Yeah.
Like loving Battery.
Great fucking band.
Loving Battery to death.
I'm so late to the game with them because I knew the name. I knew all those kids for my whole life. But actually touring with them and hearing those songs, it's incredible songs, man. So fun, dude.
And when Brian asked me to play for them, it was that same feeling as the Rocket show, the same feeling as like the title tracks released on Discord, the same feeling as hearing Q-Tip on my Drum Break record. I was like, I can't believe this dude that I used to idolize is asking me to play drums for him.
Yeah.
And then we're on a tour bus in Europe together.
That was crazy, dude. It was such a fun tour, man.
And I mean, I think that's why I just like really, really, really want to reiterate, just like do what you love, because you never know how it's going to unfold.
Or where it's going to take you. It's in the same
where it's
journey.
going to take you. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I like how you also stepped up and you do like, you're doing production and stagehand and all that stuff too. Behind the scenes shit.
I mean, I went in that direction.
That was Golden Voice?
I did end up working for Golden Voice and running a stage at Coachella.
Yeah.
And like, I think I like doing that because I realize like when I'm on tour, like what do I want when I come into a venue? You know what I mean? I want someone to be like, here's your dressing room, here's the Wi-Fi, here's your stage time.
Whole different appreciation
for it. Eat, you know what I mean? So like I wanted to like make, and a lot of the times it was people that like I knew they were playing the show. Yeah. So it's like I wanna give you a sense of like home while you're on the road. I want you to feel, and honestly, the hospitality at Black Hat and 930 coming up, like when you go around the country more and more, people were just like, I love the salsa at Black Hat. Or I love the food at 930 Club.
Yeah.
I love the dressing rooms at 930 Club. I love the stage hands at 930 Club. You know what I mean? So like in DC, it's like there really wasn't like a line between like the production people and the ones working the show versus the guys that were on the stage.
Yeah.
As so much there is out here, where there's definitely a clear line between like, are you building the stage are you playing the stage?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so
for sure.
I'm grateful that, you know, I can be of service. And also it seemed like a natural progression because like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll be around this show and get a check at the end of the night and not have to split it with 5 other dudes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sign me up. And so,
It's brutal, like, in doing the stage stuff out in Coachella. I did it once for Golden Voice.
it's brutal.
Yeah, I was out there for like a week or something in the hotel with my friend.
Oh.
So I was doing Golden Voice stuff here at the Fonda. That was so fun.
Yeah.
Just stagehand stuff there, but
when you got a venue that's built and the sound system's in place, it's a cake. It's
but
a piece of cake.
in the fucking hot ass sound of Coachella, it's gnarly, man.
It
Those
is
metal
not-
stages and stuff.
Not fun.
You did it a couple times out there. It's
It
like backbreaking, man. It's fucking
it literally broke my back.
yeah. I
Like
was talking about that. Yeah,
like I when I came out to California, I was like playing and I was like doing bands. I was doing this band called Holy Fever for a while
Yep.
too before Primal started going. And you know, that entire time I was running stages and there was a festival whose name I won't mention. But I was running a festival stage for a number of years, and like my relationship with that festival led me to working with Golden Voice and
Yep.
Coachella. But you know, I literally worked myself until my back broke last year.
Yeah, man.
You know,
Yeah.
and when my back broke, I mean, all I can say is it happened at the right time.
Mhm.
Like if there hadn't been a global pandemic and I had to watch while I was going into surgery and recovering from surgery and watching all my contemporaries like post like, you know, videos and stories and like, hey, check it out. I'm in South America. Hey, I'm doing this
Yeah.
tour, you know, like it would have crushed my soul.
Totally.
Like being able to kind of, like just hunker down and weather the storm that was the pandemic,
Yeah.
you know, and much less be able to have my health restored, you know, through surgery was, I can't believe it happened at that time, you know,
Mhm.
like it happened at just the right time,
Yeah.
you know,
And now you're all good now with your back. Now you're surfing. You're back in the water.
paddling out again. I'm you know, doing core exercises. I'm drumming like hell. I'm, you know, and
You look great, and you're sober. And you're sober since that tour.
yeah.
Wow.
Like I'm just yeah, I wanted to feel life like on full blast. I didn't want any numbing agents, you know?
Yeah.
Like I wanted to feel all of my feelings and like, you know, like exposing it as much as I loved being on the road. It was such a heavy touring schedule from like 2001 to like 2008.
You guys
know,
like a
or
party
7.
band?
Oh yeah. I definitely fell into like the
Okay.
like sex, drugs, rock and roll. Like,
Wow.
you know, I started smoking cigarettes again. And like, I was just like, you know, like
Yeah.
smoking. Yeah. I was just like doing a
You
lot
were
of stuff that
full on.
like I wasn't really stoked on, but it was just kind of like what you did because that's what people on the road did, you
Mhm.
know? And like, obviously not everyone because
Yeah.
like, you know, you're just a shining example of how to just like absorb life and just shoot it right back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like,
Thanks.
but I, you know, like I played that game, you know what I mean? And I put a couple miles on the old,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
engine, but there's something that just feels so much better and so much more receptive about not feeling the need to numb out,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Back to your brother. When your brother passed, you were like, "Yo, I'm never gonna drink again. I'm gonna stay straight as forever." Now that my brother passed like that, or you were just like,
I think it just made me like, I was like a combination of like angry and sad because I was
Yeah.
like, he didn't need to do this. Like there was a part of me that was just like so enamored with like straight edge culture and like, you know, the way that like, you know, the Discord guides like lived and, you know, just
Mhm.
made me think like, if only my brother had like been able to like see,
or absorb
Music-
some stuff I saw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
but it's also ironic because my brother was the first person who ever pulled me on stage to play drums in front of people before.
Wow.
Like we were in like Western Maryland up in the Panhandle and he was like playing at some like restaurant bar on a Saturday night. And I was like, you know, he was like, come on, why don't you play this one with me? You know?
Wow.
think we
Was he a
played
lot older?
Yeah, he was like 15, 16 years older than me.
Oh,
He was
wow.
he was my brother's, he was my dad's son from his first marriage.
Got you.
So, but, he was always in and out when I was growing up. So he felt like a brother to me.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so, like, it really made me just sad, but,
Yeah.
on the other end of the spectrum, I had a sister who was so loving and supportive and still to this day is, you know what I mean?
It's awesome.
And that really, I think that sense of, just companionship and friendship and just like there-ness really balanced out like the void that my brother's loss created, you know?
Sure, yeah, man, yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, so then it was just you and your mom after that.
And my sis.
And your sister, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So is she younger?
My sister's 3 years older than me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was she ever into punk or any of that stuff?
She sang for the first band I was in with Ian Chu.
Sick.
Yeah.
Sick. Did she go on after, like, to stay involved in the music and stuff, or no? She just did her own thing?
Yeah, she worked on music here and there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? She had bands, but she didn't. She was more academic,
Okay.
like she went into teaching. And,
that's cool. That's awesome.
She got her PhD, so she's Dr. Black now. Yeah.
Dr. Black, that's hard.
Can't fuck with Dr.
No.
Black.
And your mama comes to your bands play?
My mom used to, yeah. She would love seeing Explosion.
That's so cool.
One time she came down to Capitol Ballroom to see us play, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was the area back then, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So super supportive of your mom and your
Yeah.
sister. And
Yeah, my mom was super supportive, and she was glad that like I actually went back and finished University of Maryland in like 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
Like she was stoked because even though I still haven't used the fucking degree, she was just like she was just excited.
You did it, right?
Yeah, she was excited that I completed, the thing. So
what's on the for now? I know you said the pandemic was the perfect time for you back, but is there anything last year that really, besides your back surgery, that I don't know, a new look on life, or something you learned about yourself, or something?
I mean,
what taught you?
Just the fact that like even when things like think and feel like they're falling apart, that might just be like the perfect time for things to like heal and regrow. You know what I mean?
Great
like
point.
I needed that break so I could heal insanity. And at the same time, I was able to meet up with some guys, Michael Cotterman from Title Tracks, Kid Dynamite.
Awesome.
Loved ones. He's living out here in Los Angeles.
Oh, perfect.
And so I'm telling him like, man, we got to get a band. Like, if I find something, I'm going to hook you in.
Okay.
And lo and behold, John Coyle from Outspoken is working with his friend Sam Velde.
Okay.
Sam Velde used to sing for Bluebird and Obliterations and Night Horse.
Okay.
And so you have this kind of like LA, Orange County, like writing project that's going on.
Awesome.
And they're writing all this stuff that sounds a lot like Soulside, like Rites of Spring,
amazing,
Gray Matter kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And they showed it to me. And I was like, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. So I played what felt natural to me when they showed me the guitar parts. And Sam was there kind of like coaching, like being like, yeah, this is like kind of like where I want like a push-pull dynamic for this bridge. And it was just me and John Coyle like playing first. And like John was so stoked on what I was doing percussively. And then after our first time that we met up, I was like, what are you guys doing for a bass player? They're like, we don't have anybody. And I'm like, Michael Cotterman.
Boom,
so
bro,
I got Michael. And so because Michael and I grew up in DC and like we got these messages of like, of everything Discord pummeled into our head, both live and recorded. I think, they were stoked because we gave them like a compliment to like the sound that they were kind of like aesthetically striving for.
Yeah, that's cool. And
so now we got these demos that our friend Evan Weiss recorded in Highland Park. And we had Stephen McBean from Black Mountain. He mixed it. Sick. And then we had Brian McTurnan over in Baltimore. He mastered it for us, and now we got these demos, and so
I want to hear that shit. I love Soul Side too, man.
Yeah, so now we have this new band, Laughing Matter.
It's called Laughing Matter? Okay.
Yeah, and Laughing Matter got the life breathed into it while the pandemic was ravaging this country.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So not only did, I learned that in the past year that sometimes it takes a huge
pause.
A huge pause to make you kind of readdress what's important and heal. But you just never know what's going to come. You just never know what's going to grow out of the unexpected.
Yeah. When do you think this band's going to come out? Or the music will come out?
We got the demos now, but we're kind of talking about what we should do with it.
Yeah. You drop that shit, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
what's the last show you played? Live show.
I think the last show I played was it was either March 9th or March 10th with Explosion.
Oh, that's the one you told me. Yeah, at the Bowery. Yeah, that's right.
At the Bowery Ballroom in New York.
That's right.
While shows were being canceled. Yeah.
Wow, man. Damn. Was that kind of the reunion little run you're gonna do? Was that kind of a reunion thing back then or no?
Every couple of years, Explosion gets asked to do some good stuff or Punk Rock Bowling or the Bouncing Souls will ask us to do something or, and the band still has our chops together that we can get together, just have one or two practices and then play a couple sets. So
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. We're all still good. So everything still works, Do
you have any regrets in your life?
I think I regret holding on to trauma and hate for so long.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? I think I used, shit that happened to me when I was a kid and the hate I felt towards the world in the complete wrong way, and I shut myself off from a lot of opportunities, a lot of,
Yeah.
So I think my one biggest regret is that I didn't drop my emotional, spiritual, mental baggage sooner.
That's a heavy one. That's when did you drop that baggage?
I mean, every day.
Every day you drop it.
Every day.
Yeah, it's every day, right? Yeah.
It's just like drums. It's an ongoing practice. You know what I mean? And sometimes it takes the form of meditation. Sometimes it takes the form of talking with those who have passed. You know. Sometimes it's just taking my hand and putting it on my heart and just saying you got this.
Yeah.
You have everything that you need right in here.
Yeah, I love that, man. Damn. You consider yourself an optimist or pessimist?
I think I'm a realist.
That's what my wife is too. My wife says the same shit. She's a realist, yeah.
But I do think the natural order of things is to repair itself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I can't explain why bones knit and skin heals. You know what I mean? But there's something miraculous about the healing quality of our organic physical frames.
It's true. That's amazing.
And that's the thing. It's it takes a lot of time to get to this point of even awareness of that. Look, we've been talking for an hour and now we're just getting to how miraculous it is that we're just sitting here speaking with each other and enjoying each other's presence.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's heavy. And a lot of people get so absorbed with the pace of this world that it doesn't get arrived at by a lot of folks. It's it takes patience, it takes conversation, it takes dialogue, it takes but here we are, this fucking beautiful place.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's a really great point, man. Fuck, I learned so much about you today. Really, it's so amazing. You know what else? I mean, not to take it to a funny part, but you look like Ben Affleck. It's crazy, bro. Did people ever tell you that? And you talk like him too, with your mellow vibe. It's It's crazy. You're like a mix between Ben Affleck and Dave Grohl. It's wild.
When my hair is short, I look like Ben Affleck, and when my hair gets long, I look like Dave Grohl.
It's fucking crazy, man. Would you have like a top 5 influence? Doesn't have to be top 5 hip hop or some top 5 artists or somebody that really inspired you and changed your life when you were young? Or
I mean, Ian MacKaye,
100, yeah.
John Davis, Tribe,
sick.
Dave Grohl,
yeah, man. Any go in there? You got Ian, Dave Grohl, Tribe, John Davis. Not John Davis from Korn, but John Davis from Korn.
I mean,
it's hard, right?
It is hard, you know what I mean?
It's hard to do a top 5 of anything.
Yeah.
Especially hip hop.
I mean, the other hip hop artists that I loved growing up were, I love Del.
Del the Funky Homo Sapien?
Yeah.
Sick, man.
I love Del. I like Ice Cube was sick.
That's his cousin, too. They're cousins, those two.
Oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess it's buried in my memory bank somewhere.
Yeah. Were you a big New York hip hop head or just all around hip hop?
I loved Onyx.
Sick, bro.
I loved Onyx.
Onyx was sick, man.
I loved Wu-Tang.
Best.
I loved Ghostface.
Yeah, Wu-Tang. Tribe, De La, Gangstar.
I loved Gangstar.
Biggie.
Oh my God. Like Moment of Truth.
Sick, man.
Moment of Truth had I loved that.
Just that song in general, yeah, all of it. Yeah, it's fucking
Mass Appeal.
Great. So much.
Philly at Home.
What?
I left my Philly at Home. Do you have another?
Oh yeah, I get blunted, my brother.
Yeah. There was
oh, that's a nice and smooth one. Yeah, D-Wick, whatever. Yeah. Ian's a top one for you. Yeah.
I think so. Just because
all around inspiration, musically, everything, label,
economically,
everything, man, ethical, everything. Yeah, dude, everything, man.
Yeah, he was just such a
and still is, man.
Yeah, he really is, man. You know,
really lives it.
And he's so accessible, and he's so just kind and
totally honest.
Yeah,
real. Yeah, everything. Yeah. Fuck, man. Let's talk about how underrated Soulside is as well. Soulside, Scream, fucking Gray Matter, man.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Amazing
groups, man.
I and I think that was kind of, it was a great natural progression from hardcore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
But it's weird for me to talk about it because I was so young at the time that it was happening. I feel like I didn't really get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I can listen to those records as an afterthought, but and recognize how amazing they are. But when Revolution Summer was happening, I was fucking 6.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was another 6-7 years before I started going to shows.
Yeah.
And it was also weird because at the beginning of the 90s, Nirvana had already broke.
Yep.
And alternative was already a thing, so I was kind of, I was listening to Sammy do an interview the other day. Sammy from Side by Side.
Yeah.
Gorilla Biscuits.
Sammy Siegler, what up? Yep.
And I was just thinking, it's he's not that much older than me,
mm-hmm.
but just those couple years and the time and the place, totally different trajectory.
It's crazy, man.
And
Judge, Shelter.
Exactly. Side by Side, Gorilla Biscuits. It's filling in for fucking Ernie every once in a while. You know what I mean? It's just when I listened to him and the bands that he'd been in, I was
crazy. Maybe Project X2 he was in it, maybe, and then Civ, obviously. Wow.
Yeah. And I was thinking, okay, I shouldn't compare myself to him because he had a completely different set of circumstances. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just respect the hell out of him, and I love the way he plays drums.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously the first thing that went through my mind is man, this guy's played for iconic New York hardcore bands. I've only played for some of the most obscure bands you've never heard of, but I've got these little things here and there that people are just like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. Oh yeah, I've heard of that. That's cool. That's cool. You know what I mean? But I cannot get into the game of comparing myself to others,
man. No.
because I know that the things that like I have are some of the things that other people probably pray for. You know what I mean?
Totally, yeah, man.
So I just look at, the mile markers that I've hit, and I'm just grateful.
Yeah, man.
That I got to be there.
Yeah.
Because, other people did what they did, but they didn't get to do what I did. And the things that I did, they have incredible meaning for me, and they brought me a lot of happiness and a lot of joy and a lot of peace. So,
totally.
So.
And you're still doing it. You're still being creative. You're still making music, starting bands, playing drums.
Yeah.
Still continue to do it. It's for life,
I do not want to slow down.
Yeah, it's all you want to do and continue to do.
I mean, I don't.
Was there something besides music you ever wanted to do? Like, I don't want to do this no more. Like, I'm done with music.
I mean, I